I hurriedly returned home as my business trip got cancelled. When I opened the front door in the late afternoon, there were my husband's work shoes there for some reason. Moreover, there were women's shoes next to them that I didn't recognize. Suppressing any noise, I closed the front door and headed towards the back of the house, suspecting the worst. The ominous premonition proved true as I heard the voices of a man and a woman from the bedroom. With my heart pounding, I held my smartphone ready and gently opened the bedroom door. There, the worst scene unfolded before me. My husband was in the midst of enjoying himself with his affair partner. When I saw the other woman, my legs felt weak. After all, my husband's affair partner turned out to be my brother's wife. As the act concluded, the two lay side by side, embracing each other and starting a conversation. "You are truly the best. Much better than that guy."
"You are too. You looked incredibly cute today."
"Your wife doesn't know, does she? If she finds out, you will be in big trouble."
"She is too slow to notice. It's okay.
As I recorded the video, I felt a trembling sensation in the back of my throat. What are they doing to me? I won't forgive them. I will show them hell. After all this, my foolish husband and sister-in-law will cry and scream in despair. My name is Monica, and I'm a 30-year-old housewife. My family consists of my father, who is a teacher, my mother, and my elder brother Edward, who is 3 years older. My brother has always been my source of pride, excelling in both academics and sports since we were kids. He always gets top grades in school and is a regular in football, which he has learned since he was a child. I was always attached to my older brother, who was dependable and kind, and I would always go around saying, "Edward, Edward." On the other hand, I was just an average girl in terms of grace and appearance. However, my brother cherished me, always taking care of me. This was back in my childhood. I was targeted by the local troublemakers, teased, and had my belongings destroyed. At first, I endured it alone, but unable to bear it any longer, I consulted my brother. My brother, furious, confronted the troublemakers alone and gave them a good beating. The troublemakers brought by my brother had tears in their eyes and apologized to me. Since then, I was no longer targeted, and I gained a peaceful life. From that time, my brother became my hero. As my brother grew up, he entered a top-tier university, and 3 years later, I went to university. There, I was able to make many friends. One of my close friends especially was Lee. I met Lee, who had a friendly and cute appearance, in the same circle, and we became good friends. Even after graduating from university, we often went out for meals, sharing updates and discussing our respective love lives. At that time, I was in my second year at an advertising company. On the other hand, Lee had resigned from her full-time job and was working as a temp. During that period, I had broken up with my then boyfriend about half a year ago. "Monica, haven't you been in love lately?" Upon Lee's question, I slightly tilted my head. It's been only half a year since I broke up with my ex-boyfriend, so for now, I will focus on my work. After saying that, Lee frowned. "No way! We are still young, so we should be actively dating. How about I introduce you to a friend from my high school days? He's a great guy." "Huh? If you say so." This is how I was introduced to Aaron, who would later become my husband. He was a salesman for a small business and was tall and handsome. The moment I saw him, I thought he was great. Aaron is very kind, and I think he's perfect for you, Monica. Why don't we exchange contact information? With Lee's encouragement, we exchanged contact information. Then, the two of us started going out to eat together. Aaron seems to like me and asked me to go out with him, which I gladly accepted, and we began dating. It must have been about 6 months after I started dating Aaron. Lee had invited me to dinner. Listen, Monica, I was stumped by him. Lee had a boyfriend since university, and she revealed that they had broken up. I tried to comfort her. Lee, you will find someone new quickly. Cheer up. I'm already 25. I want to marry the next person I date. I want someone kind, cool, with a good income. At that moment, I thought of my brother. He worked for a major IT company back then, and his income was quite good. If I remembered correctly, he didn't have a girlfriend. Lee had introduced me to Aaron, so I felt indebted to her. So I suggested to her, if you want, how about meeting my brother? Huh? Your brother? When I showed her a photo of my brother on my phone, Lee's face lit up. No way! Your brother is so cool, and he works for Microsoft? If such a person was available, you should have introduced him earlier. Wait a minute. Didn't you have a boyfriend until recently? I couldn't help but chuckle. Still, since Lee was enthusiastic, I decided to introduce her to my brother. On another day, I called my brother and introduced him to Lee. Lee then launched a vigorous attack on my brother. My brother didn't seem to mind Lee's cute and earnest efforts. After a while, they both reported that they had started dating. I genuinely felt happy for them. About 2 years later, during a meal with Lee, she told me this. Hey Monica, I've decided to marry Edward. Really? You finally made it to the goal. I can't believe you're going to be my sister-in-law. It's all thanks to you. Even after becoming relatives, let's get along well. You introduced me to Aaron. I'm glad we have such a connection. What about you and Aaron, Monica? Any plans for marriage? Actually, we've been talking about getting married soon. If you and my brother are getting married, we might consider it afterward. Huh? Really? So both of us will be getting married. Let's make speech at each other's weddings. Sounds good. Let's stay close as relatives after the weddings. Several months later, my brother and Lee got married as promised. I gave a speech at their wedding. Aaron also attended the ceremony as my fiancé, and we celebrated their new beginning together. 6 months after my brother and Lee's wedding, Aaron and I had our wedding. I have good memories of my brother crying at the wedding.
Aaron, I'm counting on you to take care of Monica. Of course, Edward. I will do my best as a brother from now on.
I watched the conversation between my brother and Aaron with a smile. Afterward, my brother and Lee started living in a high-rise apartment, and Aaron and I also rented an apartment to begin a new life. However, married life was far from what I had imagined. Aaron didn't do any housework.
Since we are married, housework is a wife's job, right?
He pushed everything onto me, and I reluctantly followed his lead, handling all the household chores. 1 year after our marriage, Aaron got into trouble with his boss and resigned from his job. Later, he found a new job through connections, and after the transfer, started coming home later and later. As he worked in sales, socializing was unavoidable, but our conversations dwindled. and he began to show a somewhat indifferent attitude. Every day, I met with a somewhat curt attitude. Then one day, I was scheduled to go on a business trip for a week for work. Aaron, I will be going on a 1-week business trip next week. I thought he would say something like,
Who's going to do the housework during that time?
But surprisingly, he seemed happy about it.
All right, take care and come back safely. No need for souvenirs.
Yes, thank you. And so, the following week, I boarded a plane and headed for my business trip. Because I efficiently handled my work at the business trip destination, I finished earlier than planned, allowing me to return home one day earlier. I hesitated to contact my husband, but decided to surprise him by returning home in the early afternoon. Thus, I reached home in the late afternoon without telling Aaron. Upon my arrival, I noticed my husband's work shoes at the entrance. He was supposed to be at work. Moreover, next to his shoes were unfamiliar women's shoes. I thought to myself that this couldn't be, so I quietly closed the entrance door without making any noise and headed towards the back of the house. My worst fears were confirmed when I heard voices of a man and a woman coming from the bedroom. Suppressing my pounding heart, I quietly opened the bedroom door, holding my smartphone. There, the worst scene unfolded before my eyes. They were in code in the act. I almost collapsed upon seeing the woman, realizing it was none other than my close friend Lee. I trembled as I captured the scene with shaky hands on my phone. As the act concluded, the two lay side by side on the bed and began a conversation while embracing each other. Aaron, you're truly amazing. Much better than that guy.
You were pretty amazing too. You looked really cute today.
Monica probably hasn't found out, right? It would be a big problem if she did.
She's clueless because she's dense. It's okay, it's okay.
I felt a shiver down my spine as I recorded the video. What are these guys doing to me? I will never forgive them. I will give them hell. I opened the bedroom door with a bang and rushed into the bedroom.
What? Monica, why? You were supposed to be on a business trip.
Aaron was surprised, hastily trying to cover his naked body. I glared at the two with bloodshot eyes. I finished my business trip early and came home to find, what the hell are you guys doing here? Well, looks like we got caught. It was Lee who said that. I turned to her. Lee, what the hell do you think you're doing? Fooling around with Aaron despite having my brother. Since when has this been going on? Since high school, but...
We couldn't resist each other after we got married.
Since high school? And yet, you introduced Aaron to me? Lee lifted the corner of her mouth. Yes, I never liked your stuck-up attitude from the beginning. That's why I gave you my leftovers. You should be grateful since you've been happy all along. No, it can't be true. I'm not lying. I hated you. This situation is excellent proof. I see. I understand. I took a deep breath and informed them. I've already sent the evidence video to my brother.
What?
In an instant, both of their faces turned pale. If my husband and my brother's wife had a relationship, it would undoubtedly cause a huge commotion. They started to panic.
What the hell are you doing? Don't tell my boss anything.
Exactly. Don't send the video to Edward. Yes, in fact, my brother had started a company and became its president before marrying Lee. My husband's new job was with my brother's company. I stood in their way as they tried to escape in their disheveled state. My brother will be here soon, so behave yourselves.
Hey, stop it! Get out of the way!
Move aside, you foolish woman! While we were grappling, the doorbell rang. My brother had arrived. Entering through the front door, he stood in the living room, contemplating something as he observed the frozen pair.
Now, where should we start? Is it true that you had a relationship with him?
No, it's a misunderstanding.
I have the video evidence that Monica sent to me, so there's no excuse. Now tell me the details of how it all happened.
Reluctantly, Lee turned pale and began to speak. She revealed that she and Aaron, though not dating during high school, had a physical relationship. After marriage, they coincidentally met outside, went for a meal, and ended up in a hotel that same day. She confessed to meeting secretly with Aaron behind my and my brother's backs. Hearing all this, my brother let out a deep sigh.
I understand the story. Lee, we are getting a divorce.
What? Are you serious? Listen, the one I truly love is you.
You only love my money, right?
He confronted Lee by presenting credit card statements.
After we got married, it was all about luxury, from brands to cosmetic treatments for you. I've closed my eyes to such things because you are my beloved wife. But I can't tolerate this anymore after being subjected to such actions. Our divorce is a done deal.
No way. Lee drooped her head, and next to her, a trembling Aaron called the attention of my brother.
Now, it's your turn. Stand up. Yes.
When my husband stood up, my brother grabbed his collar and delivered a clean jab. Unable to take a defensive stance, Aaron was slammed to the floor with a thud. He groaned, his mouth opening and closing as he looked at my brother.
This is for laying hands on my woman. And this is for hurting my sister.
My brother forced Aaron, who couldn't get up on his own, to stand and delivered another jab. Once again, Aaron was slammed to the floor, visibly struggling, his face turning bright red. I looked down at him with cold eyes.
I give up. Please spare me.
Upon hearing my husband's plea, my brother finally backed away.
I had received reports from your department head. He often complained that you were frequently absent during work hours. Yet, your sales performance was terrible. What? Our company's sales car was parked in front of this house. Most likely, you were meeting with Lee during work hours, right? The fact that you are at home during this time is evidence enough. That...
My husband's eyes starting to wander suddenly.
To engage in such behavior during working hours is something I, as a professional, cannot overlook. Despite your poor sales performance, I was willing to turn a blind eye because you are my cute sister's husband. However, if you're skipping work for an affair, that's a different story. I'm firing you. What? Fired? That's a problem, President!
My husband clung to my brother, but was easily shrugged off. Then, he staggered towards me, bowing deeply to apologize.
Monica, I'm truly sorry for what I have done. Look at me. I'm apologizing, so please forgive me. And then, maybe your brother will.
Stop kidding me. Before I knew it, I was raising my voice. I can't forgive you for cheating with my friend. We are getting a divorce too. Be prepared, because I'm going to demand alimony for both of you.
Divorce? Alimony?
To Lee and Aaron's astonishment, my brother told them this with a smile.
Of course. I will also demand compensation. I will go to court if I have to, but I will make sure to collect it.
Lee and Aaron went into a frenzy, crying and pleading. That's why my brother kicked them out of the house. Later on, divorces were finalized for both me and Aaron, as well as my brother and Lee. With the help of my brother's acquaintance, a lawyer, the divorces went smoothly. My brother and I each demanded $30,000 from our ex-spouses and their affair partners. They ended up paying $60,000 each in compensation, borrowing money to tearfully settle the debt. Lee, who used to be a housewife, was disowned by her family and had to resort to night work. Aaron, who got fired from my brother's company, spent his day's job hunting and worked a night job in cleaning to make ends meet. They lived together for a while, but constant fights eventually led to a breakup. There were times when they sought refuge with us, but my brother and I firmly turned them away, so I have no idea about their life afterward. One thing was certain: they were leading miserable lives. On the other hand, my brother and I had a meal together after the commotion settled down. I'm really sorry, Edward, for introducing her to you.
You're not to blame. We've both been through a lot this time.
My brother said this, patting my head like he used to do when we were younger. From now on, I want to work hard and watch over my precious brother until he finds true happiness. Of course, I will pursue my own happiness too.
The house is looking disastrous right now. Please tell her to hurry back and clean up. My mother-in-law came all the way to my parents' house just to tell me that. But then, my mom made an even more shocking statement. My daughter passed away yesterday. I'm Kat, a 27-year-old housewife. It's been a year since I married Wayne. We met at our mutual friend's house party. I wasn't good at meeting guys, so my sweet friend set it up for me. That's where I met him.
Hi, can I join you?
Oh, sure. It was a couple of hours into the party when he suddenly popped up. We talked about a lot of things, and he asked me many questions, which made it easy for me to keep the conversation flowing. We were glued in our seats, talking until the wee hours, and I was hoping I would see him again. Luckily, he felt the same way, and we exchanged our numbers at the end of the night. From then on, we messaged each other every day and started casually dating. As we got to know each other better, he asked me to be his girlfriend. We kept our relationship fun and loving without any major quarrels.
Your cooking is amazing. I'm impressed by the taste.
Really? I'm so happy to hear that. I'll make you more. Whenever he came over, I often cooked for him. Seeing him enjoy my food delighted me. If we got married, I thought I'd be cooking like that for him every day. I couldn't help but smile at the thought. I did hope to marry him someday. Then, about a year into our relationship, he popped the question.
Will you keep making delicious meals for me? Marry me.
I was totally caught off guard by how quickly it happened, but I was ecstatic. Yes, I love you so much. Hence, the wedding preparation began. We quickly informed our parents and had the customary meet and greet. Then we tied the knot in a beautiful ceremony. Many friends and co-workers blessed us at our wedding, and I felt an overwhelming sense of happiness. We had been living separately up to that point and finally moved in together. Wayne wanted me to focus on being a homemaker, so I quit my job to become a full-time housewife. I did my best to provide a comfortable home for him by expanding my cooking skills and keeping the house squeaky clean. However, there was one thing that grabbed my attention about Wayne after living together. He was way messier than I imagined. First off, he always left his clothes lying around. It was a common sight to see his socks or t-shirts scattered on the living room floor after he had taken them off. And after eating, he didn't bother to take his own dishes away, but went straight to the sofa to lie down. I understood that it was my job to do the chores as a housewife, but I wished he'd be a bit more mindful about how he lived. Another surprise was that he couldn't do his tie by himself, and I had to help him. How did you manage before?
Mom used to do it for me.
Seriously?
By the way, she used to iron my shirts every day. Can't you do it too?
Okay, I'll iron them.
Don't mess it up, okay?
He deliberately sighed, tinged with a touch of irritation. His attitude disturbed me. He was sincere and kind before we got married, but something changed since then. He became colder towards me and acted more like a domineering husband, always nitpicking about what I did.
Hey, why are we having fish today?
It's nutritious, and we had meat yesterday, so I thought fish would be good for today.
Are you kidding me? You know I like red meat, right? I don't want to eat fish.
But he often expressed his selfish desires.
Hey, my shoes aren't polished enough. Make sure the beer is ice cold. Don't serve all the dishes at once. It's overwhelming, you know? Serve them like a course, one by one.
Honestly, his demands were tedious, and it was getting on my nerves. Whenever I couldn't meet his standard, he'd blame me, saying,
Mom always did it perfectly.
Apparently, he was overly pampered and catered to by her for everything. I resented her for spoiling him so much. A few months into our marriage, we went over to his parents' house for the first time, and I witnessed a surprising scene. Welcome back, my dear. So good to see you.
Hey, Mom. Glad to be back.
Carrying such heavy stuff. Poor thing. Give it to me. I'll take care of it.
Thanks, Mom.
I'm baking your favorite cake, so let's have it together.
Oh, sounds good. I'd love some coffee made by you too.
Of course, dear. Come, have a seat on the sofa.
Miranda was only talking to Wayne nonstop, completely ignoring me like I wasn't even there. Larry, my father-in-law, greeted me and we engaged in a conversation, but Miranda was stuck to Wayne the whole time.
Sorry about that, Kat. Miranda tends to be overprotective, and I've always tried to caution her, but she never listens. She's been like that forever. Wayne, well, he's overly dependent too, and I'm ashamed of it. I hope he's not causing trouble at home.
Well...
Oh, I guess he is, huh? I'm really sorry. I'll make sure to talk to him about it.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. I was relieved to know he had a better sense than the other two. If he had been as troubling as Miranda, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. Still, I was quite flabbergasted by how she treated Wayne. If she raised him that way, no wonder he turned out selfish and unable to do anything on his own. Maybe the issue was his environment, and I thought I may have been able to correct him. So I gathered up the courage and decided to point out his bad habits. Honey, leaving your stuff scattered everywhere like this isn't cool. I have to pick them up and put them in the laundry basket, you know? If you could do that yourself, the house would look a lot neater.
Why do I have to do such a hassle?
Maybe because you think it's a hassle, that's why you don't do it. By any chance, is your desk at work messy too? People around you might find it appalling and think you're incapable.
What? I'm fine at the office.
That might just be your perception. Habits at home definitely spill over to work.
Ugh, fine.
After I pressed him, he finally made some effort. The tactic appeared effective with him, so when I asked him to take his place to the kitchen, I mentioned it was to prevent any embarrassment for him at work. I was able to manipulate him, but sadly it didn't last long. One day, while I was relaxing at home, the doorbell rang. I was surprised to see Miranda standing at the front door. Oh, Miranda, is everything all right?
Let me in.
She just marched in without waiting for an answer. What's the matter?
You should offer some drinks first, don't you think? You're inconsiderate.
Oh, sorry. She showed up unannounced and ordered me around. I asked her what she'd like and served her the drink. While she drank it, she glared at me.
What's your problem?
Excuse me?
I hear you're saying terrible things to Wayne regularly. That he's incapable at work and that people around him must be contemptuous.
Oh, that's...
He's exceptionally bright. No doubt everyone around respects him. How could a wife speak so horribly to her own husband?
It seemed like he only conveyed the hurtful words to his mother, twisting the facts, and she just took whatever he said at face value and blamed me. I was exasperated. The situation had become quite a mess.
He's special, you know. So it's only natural for everyone to take care of him apart from work. Why can't you understand that?
I was speechless. Having such distorted affection, she wasn't just overprotective. It went beyond that, and it gave me the creeps. Then she made an unbelievable statement.
Since you seem incompetent as a housewife, I'll come over to guide you.
Huh?
How's that? Isn't it great?
No. That's, it's okay.
What? Did you just say no? You seem to be severely disillusioned. You don't even realize that you're incompetent. I feel for Wayne for getting such a useless wife. Brace yourself. I'll whip you into shape.
She was getting worked up all by herself. It was definitely going the wrong way. At that time, it seemed she had only come to tell me all that and left once she was done. That night, I confronted Wayne. Hey, why did you tell your mom things that aren't true?
Huh? Things that aren't true? I told her exactly what happened. The fact that you hurt me is real.
But I just wanted you to change.
You just have to do the housework better. I heard she's coming over every day from now on. You better learn well from her. Don't you dare be rude, okay?
He was completely on her side. Just as she doted on him, he also seemed to dote on her like a mama's boy. She started coming over the next day, just as she said.
What's with all this dust? You haven't cleaned at all. This tastes terrible, so pathetic. That's why you're a useless wife. I wish Wayne would throw you out.
I wondered why I had to be belittled like that. Her daily visits were becoming a significant source of my stress. As time went on, my health deteriorated, and I decided to get checked up one day. To my astonishment, I found out that I was pregnant. Although it was unexpected, I felt joy knowing that my child was on the way. I immediately informed Wayne.
Pregnant?
Yeah, we're having a baby.
Oh yeah? Well, keep doing your chores properly like before.
Huh? I was puzzled by his reaction. He didn't sound happy about it at all. I told Miranda as well, but she reacted similarly to him.
Don't slack off on the housework just because you have morning sickness and inconvenience Wayne.
What? I was stunned and questioned their mindset. I felt it wouldn't be good for my mental health to be around them any longer. I was sure Miranda would keep harassing me, and Wayne would keep acting selfishly. It would not only affect me, but also the baby. So when Wayne went to work, and just before Miranda arrived, I quickly packed my bags and went to my parents' home. They were surprised when I suddenly showed up. When I explained the situation, they sympathized and were furious at the two. They said I could stay as long as I wanted due to the circumstances of my pregnancy. I took their words and resolved to stay for a while. As expected, Wayne called me non-stop.
Hey, why aren't you home? Where are you?
I'm at my parents' house.
What are you doing there? Are you insane to skip your duty for that?
I'm here to protect myself and the baby. If I stayed with you and your mom, I would definitely have a breakdown. So I'm not coming back.
Cut it out. Do you think you can do whatever you want? Come back now.
No way. I don't want to talk anymore, so I'm hanging up.
Hey.
I hung up and then blocked his number. I didn't want to deal with any more trouble from him. At that moment, I made up my mind to divorce him and raise my child alone. My parents agreed that it was for the better. For a while, I didn't receive any emails or visits from Wayne. I figured he was scared to face my parents. Miranda didn't have my number, so she couldn't reach me. I managed to stay away from them for a whole month, allowing myself to mentally recover. However, Miranda must have had enough of me being away for that long. She came to see me unannounced. As I let out a sigh of annoyance and was about to open the door, my mom told me to stay in my room. Then she opened the door and began dealing with Miranda. "It's been a long time. What can I do for you today?" Miranda widened her eyes and shouted,
Bring out your daughter. Her house is looking disastrous now. Please tell her to hurry back and clean it up.
She came all the way just to tell me that. Apparently, Wayne had been making a huge mess, and every time she went there, she had to spend a lot of time cleaning. So she needed me to come back and take over the responsibilities. She completely disregarded the fact that I was pregnant. I was flabbergasted. Then my mom made a surprising statement.
"She passed away yesterday."
What? What are you talking about?
Miranda was shaken, and I was also stunned by it.
She passed away? Huh?
"I asked her to run an errand on the way back from the doctor, but then she got hit by a car that ran a red light. That's why I can't bring her out, even if you ask."
What?
My mom was totally serious, so Miranda seemed to believe her.
I'm sorry for your loss. I didn't expect to hear this. I said many terrible things to her. I was just thinking about my son, but she must have been hurt. No, I intentionally hurt her. Said horrible things to her. I'm really sorry.
"Ah, I see. Indeed, she was deeply hurt by you and Wayne. That's why she came back to us. If she hadn't returned here, she might not have had an accident."
Yes, that's right. I'm really sorry. I don't know how to apologize enough.
Miranda, overwhelmed with guilt, covered her face with both hands.
"Have you realized how badly you've hurt my daughter?"
Yes, I'm really ashamed.
She kept apologizing, and my mom stopped her.
"Please, forgive me for going a bit too far. Actually, Kat is alive."
Huh?
"But the fact remains that she's deeply hurt and needs to rest. Only after hearing that she passed away did you finally admit your fault. If we had talked assuming she was alive from the beginning, it wouldn't have turned out this way. I apologize for my rough action."
Miranda had a complex expression, but didn't blame her.
It's because I pampered my son too much that he turned into an incompetent and irresponsible man. I'm really sorry for causing trouble.
Miranda seemed to have truly reflected on her actions, but that didn't erase what had happened before. Afterward, I told Wayne that I wanted a divorce. He initially protested, saying that it was out of the question. But after my in-laws persuaded him, he reluctantly agreed. Subsequently, they came to apologize to me. They promised to re-educate him and assured me they'd ensure he paid child support on time. Currently, he's under strict discipline at his parents' house. They seem to be instructing him on how to take care of himself and cook. Despite complaining, he's in a situation where he has no choice but to do the chores, albeit clumsily. Occasionally, my in-laws get to see their grandson. As for Wayne, I plan to decide whether to involve him in the child's life based on my in-laws' assessment of his maturity. Meanwhile, I've started working again and getting support from my family and raising my son. I'm working hard to earn enough for his future education and to allow him to pursue his interests. My husband had a dream of making it big as a rock musician. I was managing our living expenses and funding his promotional activities. I even covered $3,000 for his father's caregiving cost every month at his request. However, there was no sign of him succeeding at all. On top of that, he started slacking off on his music career. Whenever I tried to discuss it with him, he got defensive, insisting I only needed to listen to whatever he said. It was becoming a struggle to continue our life like that. I decided to at least ask my mother-in-law to spare me the caregiving expenses. Oh, but my husband passed away 10 years ago. Right after hearing that, my husband's diabolical betrayal became evident. I'm Sadie, 37 years old. I work for an event company, handling various types of clients. 2 years ago, I married Keith, who is 10 years younger than me. My friends were quite concerned when I told them the big news. I understand why, given the age difference. Still, I was adamant to marry him. We're currently living in an apartment together. Unfortunately, we still don't have any children. While we were dating, we never had any big fights. We got along so well. So, initially, I thought our married life would work out just fine. I was in for a rude awakening. Keith was an indie rock band member, mostly performing at local live houses and regional music festivals. He was working hard to become famous through his music. Since he couldn't make a living solely from the band, he juggled multiple part-time jobs. We met when I helped out at one of his shows. His dedication to music was so inspiring that I felt compelled to back him up. I anticipated we might not have much in common due to the age difference, so I intended to interact with him in a more businesslike manner. Yet, while managing his band, he started making direct advances towards me. At first, I thought he was just teasing me, but he was actually serious and poured his feelings into me.
Sadie, you know I like you a lot. Why don't you give me a chance?
I was surprised by his direct approach. You're kidding, right? I'm 10 years older than you. Someone as cool as you could easily find young and pretty girls. In reality, he was a wild-looking, handsome guy and had quite a few female fans. On the other hand, I was a plain Jane and had been so absorbed in work that I missed my prime age to find a husband. Not that I had a strong desire to get married, and I actually preferred work over romance. Moreover, my older brother has 3 kids, so my parents never pressured me to get married. I thought it was some kind of mistake for a good-looking guy like him to have feelings for me. But he persistently expressed his love and didn't give up.
I don't care about fans who are only interested in my appearance, not my music. I prefer mature women like you, who respect and support my dream sincerely and are capable at work. Seriously, marry me.
As I observed his earnest demeanor, I gradually started to see him as a man. We dated for a short while, and after much consideration, I decided to marry him. I resolved to support him in pursuing his dreams when we got married. We didn't have enough money for a wedding, so for the time being, We had an intimate ceremony at the city hall. After that, Keith rolled into my apartment, and we started living together. My parents lived on the opposite side of the country, and he couldn't afford to go meet them. We talked about visiting each other's family once we had a bit more breathing room. Then, shortly after we got married, he wanted to discuss something with me.
Actually, my dad got paralyzed in an accident a while back. He needs caregiving, but I can't go back that often. And my mom's getting old and can't move around much either.
Oh no, that sounds tough. Is there something I can do?
Yeah, well, his care costs $3,000 a month. I've been cutting corners to make ends meet so far, but I'm reaching my limit. I'm really sorry, but honey, could you pitch in the $3,000 each month?
I was a bit taken aback by the request. My take-home salary was about $3,000, and he made about $1,500. Sending my entire salary each month would have left us with just enough for rent. Seeing me lost in thought, he suddenly grabbed my hand.
Honey, I'm really counting on you. My parents have been supporting my dream. Doing nothing about this won't sit right with me. I'll work hard to become famous. Please.
I decided to tough it out at his desperate plea. All right, but if it comes out of my income, we won't be able to sustain ourselves. So for now, I'll use my savings. You've got to pay it back sometime, though.
Thanks, love. I'll definitely pay it back. Heck, if I make it big, I'll spoil you rotten.
Just to be safe, I made him sign a promissory note. Even though we were married, I thought it would have been better to handle those things properly. Paying $3,000 a month hurt, but I tried to think it was for a good cause. I just hoped his band would become famous soon. Contrary to my wish, he hasn't made any progress after 2 years. Not only that, he hasn't been promoting his band lately. Furthermore, they don't even get together and practice. He's either lounging at home or using the pocket money I give him to go out somewhere. At first, I thought he might have given up on his dream. If he's not continuing with music, he needs to find another job. When I asked him if he had given up, he insisted he was still pursuing his music career. Despite his words, there's no sign of him restarting band activities at all. One day I got fed up and complained to him. Hey, can't you just get back into playing shows already? Or at least try some part-time jobs, even short-term? It could be a fresh breath of air, you know?
Yeah, maybe. When I'm in the mood.
You said that last time, but you've been just chilling without working. If you keep going like this, we're going to be in serious trouble. Just earn a little something, for God's sake. His nonchalance ticked me off, and I unintentionally responded in a harsher tone. He glared at me, and then got defensive.
Shut up. Don't you complain about men's work. I'm just taking a break 'cause I'm in a slump. I'll get back to it when time passes.
I was stunned by his sudden burst of anger. He had never been nasty to me since we got married. Anyway, his not working is seriously messing our finances up. My savings are getting low because of the monthly caregiving expense for my father-in-law. Our life will seriously fall apart soon. I did discuss reducing the amount I send with him, but...
Cut down the amount? That'll make my dad suffer and make life harder for my mom. Are you planning to abandon my parents?
It's not like that at all, but we're barely afloat. We can't sustain our life on just my income.
Figuring that out is your job as my wife. Reducing the amount is absolutely out of the question. If there's not enough money, you go get a part-time job or something.
He furiously stormed back to his room after that. I was at a loss about how to deal with his absurd demands. His troublesome behavior doesn't end there. Lately, he says he's going out with friends and comes back pretty late. It's not uncommon for him to return in the dead of night or sometimes not even contact me and just come back in the morning. When he returns home, he reeks of alcohol and perfume. When I ask him where he's been, he says he's been out playing around and drinking at bars. Okay, if it's just him drinking too much, I can understand the alcohol smell. But what's with the strong scent of perfume? I ask him to at least let me know where he's going, but he just won't listen.
Don't complain about my hangouts with my buddies. I just happened to get that perfume smell at the bar. Don't go jumping to conclusions.
He got upset when I mentioned the perfume. However, his eyes were looking all over the place, and he was sweating, so it was crystal clear he was lying. He used to be sweet when we first got married, but now there's not a trace of it left. In fact, I feel like he's treating me more like a cash cow than anything else. Divorce crosses my mind, but there's also the matter of the caregiving fees I've paid so far. I still have the promissory note, but will I get it back after the divorce? I have no choice but to consult with my in-laws, so while he's away, I've decided to call him. When I cleaned his room, I found a notebook with phone numbers written on it. It was old school, which is why it made a strong impression on me. While he's out, I go into his room and dial the number written in the notebook. Then, a woman's voice answers.
Hello, who is this?
Oh, hi, this is Sadie. You don't know me. Is this Miss Florence, Keith's mother?
Yes.
I explained to her that I'm his wife. She sounds really surprised since she hasn't received any news from him.
I never thought he could get married. He's lazy and always talks about becoming a rock star.
I'm really sorry for the delayed update. He was earnest in pursuing me. And well, I'm quite a bit older than him. I feel kind of guilty, so I blurted that out like an excuse. Then I bring out the issue of caregiving expenses. He asked me to pay $3,000 each month for his father's care. But because he's not working, my savings are about to run out. Is it okay to reduce the amount? When I nervously ask her, she becomes dead silent on the other end. And then, before I sense something bad, she drops a bombshell on me.
My husband, he passed away 10 years ago. Anyway, Keith has been estranged from the family for years, and we haven't been in touch.
What? His father is gone? And he's been estranged? I'm sorry, could you please explain a bit more? After talking with her, I discover one shocking truth after another. I've been deceived by him all this time. I'm trembling with rage. All the effort I put into supporting his dream has been for nothing. I will not let him get away with this. I'll make sure he pays for what he's done. A few days after the call with my mother-in-law, Keith was out late again. Normally I'd be worried about where he'd been, but now I honestly feel relieved because I'm not interrupted in my preparations. When he returns, just as I finish my task, he widens his eyes as he looks around the room. Then he starts yelling at me.
Hey, what the heck are you doing? Don't touch my stuff without permission.
I stare at him coldly. You need to get out of this apartment, and we're getting a divorce. You'll be hearing from my lawyer soon.
What the heck? You can't just say that out of the blue. What the heck do you think you're doing?
I know exactly what I'm doing. But do you? What have you done with the $3,000 I've been paying every month for your dad's care, which you lied about? He freezes at my question, so I tell him about contacting his mom. Without giving him a chance to say a word, I question him about his dad's passing and his estrangement due to repeated misdemeanors like shoplifting. His face turns pale and desperately tries to come up with excuses.
No, it's not like that at all. Oh, I was buying band equipment. It was pricey, so I was hesitant to tell you. It's for work, so it's fine, right?
I'm disgusted by his pathetic excuse at this point. Even if that is true, the fact remains that he lied and deceitfully took money from me each month. And especially because it was all built on lies, there's no way I could forgive him. I'm not up for vague excuses. You used the money I gave you on your affairs, right? I've got proof, and it's all been checked. His notebook listed a bunch of women's phone numbers. When I called them all up, 5 women confirmed they were involved romantically with him. They were all lied to about him being single. When I confront him about this, he turns red as a beet and becomes enraged. He even tries to attack me. At this moment, a sharp scream comes from the back room.
Enough!
And out pour a bunch of women. The color on his face goes from red to white in a second. They're all his mistresses, he deceived, and all gathered at my request. They looked like they were ready to unleash hell, especially since some of them were seriously considering marriage. They pounce on him, shouting, "You jerk!" and "You scumbag!" as they tower around the cowering Keith. The outnumbered women, fueled by anger, are like a force to be reckoned with. Amid this chaos, Keith's groveling, crying out, "Please stop, I messed up, I'm sorry." Once they have enough of him, each of them spits out,
"I'll never forgive you," and "We're done,"
and storms out one by one. He's left in a sorry state, completely stunned. I lay it on even thicker and tell him straight up, "Just so you know, I'm demanding alimony for the infidelity, and you're paying back the total $70,000 I've paid in caregiving expenses. I've got the paperwork, so there's no running away." He suddenly looks at me and begs on his knees, "Please, honey, please don't divorce me. I'll pay back the money over time, and I'll change my ways and work seriously. Please, don't leave me." His pleas fall on deaf ears at this point. I feel nothing but annoyance. Are you kidding me? After lying and stealing money from me, you're saying this now? Using your deceased father as an excuse is despicable. Now I understand exactly why your mom disowned you. Please don't say that. I'm really remorseful. It's too late for me to believe that now. I never want to see your face again. I'll contact you through my lawyer, so get the heck out of my apartment right now. If you don't leave, I'm calling the police. I kick him outright then and there. After that, I successfully divorced Keith and collected the money he deceitfully took from me and alimony through my lawyer. When I threatened to fight in court if he didn't pay, he quickly transferred the full amount into my account. It seems like he racked up some debts somewhere. Moreover, he scammed 2 out of the 5 women he had an affair with. They came after him too, but he couldn't afford any more debts. He turned to his estranged mother for help, begging for mercy. I heard that even though she disowned him, she didn't want him causing trouble for others, so she lent him to pay them back. In return, she sent him to work day and night on a deep-sea fishing boat owned by her relative until he paid off his debts. He's probably getting tossed around in rough waters and being worked rigorously right about now. On the other hand, I've got my money back, plus alimony, so I'm living a carefree single life. I'm hoping to meet someone sincere next time around. What a lovely child. She looks just like me, and my wife is pregnant with our second one. What? Why are you here? Bringing his mistress and kid to my hospital and then asking, "Why are you here?" That's just unbelievable. I wish I could throw the same question right back at him. Why are you here? I'll make sure he regrets casually showing up at my workplace. My name is Bianca. When it gets a bit chilly, I find it so cozy in bed in the morning that I often sleep in, even when I'm 40. Today, I slept through my alarm and didn't wake up my husband, so I apologized profusely.
No, it's my fault for sleeping in,
he said with a smile. But I still felt bad because I had promised to wake him up the night before. Nowadays, I live a pretty laid-back life, but in my 20s and 30s, I was a busy internist, always on the go. My life changed a lot when I got married, not just in terms of my career as a doctor. It was busy, and there were a lot of new things to get used to, but I thought I was living a happy life. Until that day. It happened in the 10th year of my marriage to Frank, when I was 35. We were high school classmates and dated for a while, but broke up when I left for college. Years later, we reconnected at a class reunion and ended up getting married. We shared a lot of interests, and I think we had a pretty good marriage. But even after 10 years, we hadn't been able to have kids. We weren't infertile, and we both wanted children. Maybe if we hadn't just left it to nature and had been more proactive, we could have had a child. But the truth was, I was too busy to even think about raising a child. I didn't want to have a child without being able to provide a proper environment, so we weren't actively trying to conceive. Then one day, I happened to see Frank looking at a picture of a child I didn't recognize on his phone. I stopped in my tracks and asked, "Whose kid is that?"
Huh? Oh, it's my boss's kid. He just sent me the picture.
Huh. He quickly closed the screen, so I couldn't see the face well, but the child looked about 4 or 5 years old. Maybe it's a professional habit to notice the physical traits of people rather than their faces. I chuckled to myself at the thought. Maybe he was also yearning for a child, staring at someone else's kid like that. I started to wonder if we should seriously consider trying to have a baby. But then the same thing happened again that Christmas. He was looking at a picture of a little girl holding a toy and laughing. It was probably the same child I saw before, the boss's daughter. Is there really a boss who frequently emails pictures of their child to their subordinates? Even if it was just parental pride, wouldn't it be more normal to show the photos directly at work, rather than sending individual emails? Once I started thinking like that, my suspicions about Frank grew, and I started to wonder who that child was. My first thought was that it was his child from an affair, but I saw no signs of him cheating. Of course, I couldn't be sure since I worked night shifts, and he could have been sneaking out then. But knowing how he always tidied up the room and took care of the laundry and meals when I was away, it seemed unlikely. He worked during the day and spent the evenings with me, or did chores when I was on night shifts. I didn't think he had time for an affair, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. So I took a day off without telling him, and decided to stake out near his office. Thinking I was foolish to waste my day off like this, I waited at a cafe in front of his office, sipping coffee. After a while, Frank left the office later than usual for a sales call. I quickly left the cafe and followed him. He went to an apartment, and when he rang the doorbell, a woman and a little girl came out to greet him with smiles. It was a girl from the photo, and I just broke down crying. But it was just a woman and a child coming out to greet him. There was no solid proof. Maybe he was just visiting a friend and her child. But my gut told me that the woman was his mistress and the child was his. I was probably right. That day, I lied to him that I was tied up with work and couldn't come home, and stayed at a hotel instead. The moment I thought my husband might be cheating, I couldn't bear to breathe the same air as him. He seemed to be home, but he didn't doubt my lie at all, and just said kindly,
"Don't work too hard."
I even felt irritated by his warm words, wondering if I had been deceived by his superficial kindness all this time. I couldn't stand him anymore, seeing him as nothing but filthy, and I didn't even want to talk to him. Even after I returned home, the atmosphere was terrible. In front of me, he would say things like,
"You must be tired. Poor thing."
But whose fault was that? I used to appreciate his kindness, but now I couldn't feel that way anymore. Was this what it felt like to fall out of love with someone? Honestly, I had no idea about divorce at the time. Or rather, you don't research these things unless you're considering divorce. Nobody gets married with the intention of getting divorced, after all. After that, I started learning about the law and gathering evidence, steadily preparing for divorce. Having a detective do his work would take time, but surprisingly, I quickly found out about the other woman. My husband and his mistress, Myra, met in a cafe about a year after we got married. He fell for Myra, a waitress there, at first sight, and started visiting the cafe regularly for lunch. They began talking little by little, and though they didn't exchange contact information at first, keeping it strictly as customer and waitress, one night he asked her out for dinner. From there, they quickly became romantically involved. He mainly visited her house, in between work, rarely going on dates, probably to avoid being seen. Every other week or so, the detective sent me detailed reports about my husband's affair. The more I learned, the less I wanted him in my sight. It was a necessary process to gather evidence, but it was tough. Reluctantly, I switched to mostly night shifts to avoid seeing him. Fortunately, he didn't suspect a thing. Thinking I just needed to go through with a divorce, about a month after the incident, a family walked into my consultation room, saying, "Excuse us." "Okay, Maya, be good."
No, I don't want the medicine.
Maya, a little patient who came in with a fever, was crying, not wanting to take the medicine she'd be prescribed later. Her mother tried to soothe her, while her father looked at his crying child with a loving gaze. They seemed like a perfectly happy family. If only the father wasn't my husband. Incredibly, my husband, seemingly forgetting where I worked, came to my hospital with his mistress and their child. It goes without saying that I nearly crushed the computer mouse I was holding when I saw the chart. And he didn't even realize I was the doctor, busy doting on the child right in front of me.
"Look, Daddy's here. No need to cry,"
he cooed in baby talk. What's with that baby talk? Isn't he embarrassed? Especially in public and in front of his wife? I almost wanted to lecture him. If you're going to cheat, at least hide it thoroughly. What a lovely child. He turned around with a big smile and said,
"Right? She looks just like me. And actually, my wife is pregnant with our second." "Wait, why are you here?"
The moment he saw my face, his expression froze. But I said with a smile, "Could you please keep it down in the hospital?"
But this isn't your hospital, is it?"
"Oh dear. Didn't I tell you? I help out at this affiliated hospital twice a week. Did you forget?" Frightened by my smile, his face turned pale, and Myra, his mistress, worriedly asked, "Are you okay?" What a lucky girl Maya is to have such great parents.
Ah,
Myra replied, clearly confused about why I was suddenly praising them. She seemed unsure what to say, but managed a polite,
"Thank you."
Meanwhile, my husband was trembling and eventually collapsed to the ground.
"Honey, are you okay? You don't have a cold too, do you? Are you feeling sick?"
She asked him, but he couldn't answer. Interesting. Even my husband wasn't shameless enough to be called honey by his mistress in front of his wife and respond with, "Yes, dear." "Is your husband okay?" I asked sarcastically. Then my husband, with a forced smile and a strained expression, was sweating profusely and looking off into the distance. Seeing this, Myra suggested,
"Hey, if you're feeling sick, why don't you see the doctor too?"
"That's a good idea. Maybe he should consider surgery to prevent having more children. That would be good not just for his health, but for his life too."
"What?"
She looked at me shocked while he twitched beside her. Don't make such a face, dear. I've known about your affair for a while now."
What?
My husband, who had been reacting like a broken robot, suddenly seemed to come back to life. He looked at me seriously and said, "I was gathering as much evidence as possible for a divorce to be in my favor, but it seems I won't need it now." "What's the matter? Too shocked to speak?" "Oh, looking at her up close, she really does resemble you. Such a cute child," I said with a smile that masked my anger. My husband was frozen stiff.
"Oh, wait. This doctor is..."
Myra began, turning to my husband, who gave no response, but seemed to realize that I was his wife.
"I didn't know he was married at first."
She suddenly started defending herself. "Is that so? Well, my condolences, but you must have known at some point that he was married, right? Not going on dates and always meeting at home to avoid being seen? And still, you had a child with him and continued the relationship without any apology to me. Regardless of how it started, you're equally guilty."
"I'm sorry."
She apologized awkwardly, avoiding my gaze. My husband followed suit, hanging his head and saying,
I'm truly sorry.
Maya, their daughter, looked on with a confused expression. "Do you think I want your apologies after everything? Really?"
Huh?
I mean, it's not like I'm so naive that I'll settle everything just because you two apologized. My colleagues here at work saw you bring your mistress and child here, so an apology isn't going to cut it," I said, sighing. He mumbled,
I really am sorry.
in response. If a mere sorry was enough, we wouldn't need police or courts. Look at this nurse next to us, feeling awkward. What are you going to do about that? Huh? I wanted to say all that, but I kept silent, not wanting to involve the nurse in our drama. It must be uncomfortable for her, caught in such a situation, seeing her boss discover the affair. I've said it before, but I don't need your apologies. Show your sincerity through the alimony.
What? But I have kids, and you earn more than me. We don't need to bring money into this.
So just because I earn more, I should refrain from receiving alimony, an apology in monetary form? Isn't that absurd? You apologize with words, but refuse to pay? What a small-minded man. You brought this upon yourself, so pay up generously.
You're so arrogant. You're just after money. I don't have to listen to such an ugly accusation.
What else can you offer me right now that would satisfy me? The only way you can show your sincerity is through money. Unless, of course, you want to be my housemaid for free for the rest of your life. But then you'd have to quit your job and have no income. Sounds like a tough choice, right?
I could offer you my love, maybe.
That's the last thing I need right now, I snapped. I thought he was joking, but he looked genuinely disheartened.
No good, huh?
He mumbled, crestfallen. After fathering 2 children with another woman, he still thought his love could win me back? Utterly delusional. Hearing this, Myra snapped.
What? Love? What about me? You said I was the most important.
She glared at him coldly.
That's a different issue.
He started mumbling again, but his excuses only fueled her anger more, almost to the point of explosion.
Just when we were finally getting to the point where you could divorce your wife, you should just pay the alimony and make a clean break. I decided to have the second child because you said you were going to divorce in the future. You keep saying you'll divorce, but never follow through. You've done nothing about acknowledging the kids either. If you're going to be so indecisive, I'll make sure you acknowledge these children and get child support from you before I leave you. I'm a mother now, and I can't deal with your indecisiveness.
As she ranted at my husband, he tried to calm her down, saying,
Don't get so angry.
But his weak attempt only added fuel to the fire. She heated up and was about to throw something at him, but the nurse and I stopped her. Anyway, after the divorce, whether you remarry your mistress or do whatever, I don't care. I'm not interested in you anymore. He looked dejected at my words. The idea of being discarded after having an affair must have been frustrating for him. More importantly, since you father children, you better act responsibility as a parent. Whether it's paying child support to Myra, marrying her, or showing some sincerity. This is not about you two. It's for the sake of Maya and the unborn child. Make sure you don't ruin their lives. Despite my anger, which he had never seen during our marriage, he seemed to understand and replied,
I will take it to heart.
After raising my voice in the hospital, I got scolded by the medical director, but I successfully divorced my husband. As I had declared, I received the alimony I asked for, and the property division went as I wanted. Frank did remarry Myra, and she seemed to have decided to keep a tight rein on him, thinking, I can't let this indecisive man do whatever he wants. He has to report to her if he's coming home late and is obligated to call before coming home. He hardly has any free time on weekends and is forced to spend it all on family activities. She manages all his salary. He has to bring lunch she prepares every day, and he must declare any purchases he wants to make. This is all because of her love for him, to keep him from wandering off. But it seems he's getting tired of her overbearing love. Well, it's a relationship that started with an affair, so it's natural for her to feel insecure. It's his own fault. Still, he seems to care for the children, spending weekends on kindergarten events or going to amusement parks, so my wish for the children's happiness is fulfilled. I'm relieved. It would have been bitter for me if 2 children had become unhappy because of my divorce. I'm glad it didn't end in sadness. As for me, I was assigned to a distant hospital and ended up remarrying a man I met there. Now at 39, I'm the mother of a little girl I had with him. I had thought I would never get pregnant, especially since there was no sign of it with my former husband, so it was a big surprise. I used to think I didn't want children because I was busy or couldn't conceive, but now that I have her, she's so precious to me. My world revolves around her, and she's the first thing I think of in everything I do. Maybe it was just not meant to be with my ex-husband. There must be such a thing as fate. Maybe I didn't conceive with my ex-husband because we were meant to divorce. With my current husband, I got pregnant almost immediately after marriage, and everything has been surprisingly smooth. Maybe we were also destined to marry. It sounds like a dreamy girl's fantasy, but why not? Women, no matter their age, always long for romance.